Alright, so today I'm going to do a quick walkthrough tutorial for you on how to create the Android logo in Adobe Illustrator for class. So we're going to come up here and click File New inside Adobe Illustrator. Mine's going to look a little different than yours because I have a newer version of it. So what we want to do is right here where we type our name at, we want to put in first name dot last name dot Android logo because that's the name of this project. And then on your screen, this right here is going to be a little lower down. It's going to say units next to it. And we want to choose inches. And the size we want to type into width and height is exactly what I have in here already. So 5 inches by 5 inches. And then, so this is what yours is going to look like right here. And then we want to tell it right here under the number of artboards 2. Because we're going to be using 2 artboards for this project. So under name, first name dot last name dot Android logo, 2 artboards. Under units, I want you to put inches in the drop-down box, and then 5 inches by 5 inches for the width and the height. Once you've done that, you can go ahead and click OK. It's going to put 2 artboards up here for you. If yours are too large for the screen like mine are, you can come up to View and say Fit All to Window, and it'll make them fit to the window nice and neat for you. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to download the image and the font file that we're going to be using from Schoology. So we need to go over there and download those real quick and install them. So on Schoology, this assignment is in the yellow folder. So we're going to come down here to the yellow folder. And we are going to go right here to the vinyl decal notes that we were doing together in class. If you've already started this, you'll have to click the test quiz tab in order to see these files right here. But this has the slideshow that we went through together in class, the font file that we need, and the actual Android logo from their website. So we're going to click the Android font and the Android logo to download both of those. They'll show up down here on my toolbar. You want to move these files to your tech folder, your vinyl decal folder. Otherwise, when you log off the computer, they will be deleted. So we're going to click the up arrow next to one of them and say Show in Folder. And I want this one. Let's see if I can arrange these by date real quick so I can just get those two. If you hold down the Control key on the keyboard, you can select both of them at the same time. I'm going to right click and cut those. I'm going to come to my W drive right here, go into my tech folder, vinyl decals, and I'm going to right click and say paste in here. So now I want to install this Android font, so I'm going to double click it. It's going to bring up the screen to install it. I'm going to click the install button. I already have it installed, so it's going to ask me if I want to replace it. I'm just going to click yes so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Once it's installed, this grays out. That means it's completely installed, so we can click the X and close that. And then we can go ahead and close out of our W drive as well. And I will take us back over into Adobe Illustrator now. Okay, so in Adobe Illustrator, what we want to do is come up here and do a File Open to open up that file from our W drive that we just downloaded called the Android Robot Outlined. Okay. It's the actual Android logo from their website. So I want to click on this and drag it off the artboard. It's already traced and completed because it's an Adobe Illustrator file, so we don't have to use the image trace on it. But we do need to move it to our other artboard up here. So just like Google Chrome does, Adobe Illustrator has tabs up here that it opens up every time you open a new file. Okay, so we want to move this picture of the Android over here onto this right side artboard. So to do that, we're going to make sure we're on our selection tool. We're going to click him. We're going to hold down the mouse button, the left mouse button, and we're not going to let go until I say to. So we're going to drag, 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 drag till we're over that tab with our name on it, drag down on top of the right artboard, and then let go. And that's going to bring him down onto here. He's going to come in and be too big for this, so we're going to resize him here in just a minute. But first I want to close this other tab we have open, so I'm just going to click the X next to it and tell it no, I do not want to save any changes. Okay, so now I'm going to click my Android over here. And when I do that, I want to resize him. So if I hold down the Shift key on the keyboard, I can resize him to be a smaller size to fit inside this window by grabbing the corner handles on the right. This is a newer version, so it's not showing me my corner handles to do that with. So I'm going to do it a different way up here. So I'm going to go to Object and Transform and go to Scale. I'm going to tell it to preview, that way I can see what it's doing over here. And I am just going to scale it down some. So I'm going to say, let's try 95% and see if that's good or not. I click OK and see if he will fit in there now. He's still just a little bit too big. So I'm going to do it one more time. Okay, that works. So 90% is about right to get him to fit there inside your artboard just right. Okay, now that we have him there as a reference point to look at as we're creating our own over here on this side of the screen, we can go ahead and get started with our drawing. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to, I want to show you this slide right here, because these are all the topics that we're going to be covering. This is a beginner easy project. It should take about 45 minutes, okay? We're going to use the circle tool, knife tool, eraser tool, rotate tool, flip tool, and pathfinder and align tool, okay, to make this right here. It does say on the Android website that you can't download and use their original file, but you can reproduce it or modify it. So that's what we're doing, is reproducing it ourselves. Okay. Now the next thing we want to do is we need the color of this Android right here. So right over here, we're going to double click on this white box. If we hover over it, we can see that that is our fill color. So I'm going to double click it to select it. And I want the same color green that he is over here. So to do that, I'm going to hit the eyedropper tool, which is the letter I on the keyboard, and I'm going to actually click on the Android over here to select that color. Oops. Okay, cancel there. I'm just going to do it this way. I'm going to click on him over here, and that's going to give me this color. If I look here, it's the same code that I have on the vinyl decal slideshow for you guys, A4C439, okay, because that's where I got the color code from. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. The next thing I need to do is I need to turn off my stroke. So on yours, if this right here is, typically it's black for you guys, the stroke outline is. So if it is black like this, then you want to turn that off, because otherwise it's going to draw a black border, a line around him, and there isn't one over here, so we don't want one on ours. So we want to choose this one right here that says none. It's the white one with the red line through it, so we're going to click it to make sure that is set to none. Okay. All right. Now that we have this set up over here, we can go ahead and start drawing our Android over here. So the very first thing that we want to do for that is we want to create his head using the ellipse tool. So if you can see these tiny little triangles on the right corner of all the tools, that's to let you know that there are hidden tools behind them. And if we hold down the left mouse button on top of them, we'll get a little flyout menu here that has other options. So we want to use this ellipse tool here, or you can hit the letter L on the keyboard. That's the shortcut key for it. Once we have it selected, we're just going to click one time somewhere on our artboard. The artboard is this white board that we're working on, and it's going to bring up this little window here asking us what we want our width and height to be. So we're going to type in 2.7 inches for both the width and the height, and then we're going to click OK. And we can look at this and see that that's larger than his head because his head is only a half circle, so we're going to end up having to get rid of half of this circle. So to do that, we want to use, we're going to end up using the knife tool here in a minute. But first, I want to make sure we align this head to our artboard. And I know we tried to do this in class and it didn't work out for you guys, but I'm going to show it on here just in case it does work. So if we click on the head, the circle, with our selection tool, and then we shift click the artboard that we want to be active, which in this case is the left one, to select it, it puts a black border, you can barely see it around it, showing it's the active one. Okay, and then we can come up here and go to Window and choose Align. So this is doing the same thing it did on yours. It's not showing that extra little tool down here to show you how to align to artboard. So we're going to go ahead and just see if it will align it anyway. We're going to say horizontal align right here, and so it did. It aligned it in the center of this. And then I could tell it vertical align top, but then it puts it too close to the top edge, and that's going to put it too far down in the center. So I'm just going to put it up here about where I think it should be. Okay. And I'm going to leave this open because we're going to need it later. So I'm just going to move it over here out of the way for now. So now that I have this, I want to use the knife tool to slice this in half so that it looks more like this head over here. Okay. So I want to make sure I'm still on the selection tool and I have this selected. And then I'm going to go to the knife tool, which is hidden underneath the eraser tool. Okay. So I'm going to go to the eraser tool and click the pop out and choose knife from the list. Okay. Now when I'm using the knife tool to slice through this, I want to go through right here where these blue dots are because that shows me exactly where the center of this is at. And I have to start outside of the circle and I have to end outside the circle. Otherwise it's not going to slice it completely in half. Okay. To draw a straight line while I'm doing this, I want to hold down the Alt key. So I'm going to get right here and position myself. I'm going to hold down the Alt key, press my left mouse button, and draw a straight line through the middle of that, and then let go of both buttons. You'll see it leaves a blue line right there. Okay. Then I'm going to click on my direct selection tool, the white arrow. I'm going to click off of everything. I'm going to click just the bottom half of the circle and drag it away so I can see that yes, it did cut it in half. I don't need this piece right here, so I can hit the delete key on the keyboard and get rid of it. And that's going to leave just this top half right here that looks like his head over here. Okay? So once we've done that, we are ready to make his antenna up here for his head. So we are going to come over here and we want to use the pen tool, which looks like this. We can also click the letter P on the keyboard to select it. But the first thing we need to do before we do that is we need to set our stroke color, because this is made with a stroke line, to the same color of green as this is. So we're going to come over here and double click right here, and we can type in that number again, A4C439, and we can just hit enter on the keyboard and it automatically will save it for us. Yours will be up here at the top of the screen. Mine's over here for this newer version. But I want to change the stroke point for the line up to 4. And I actually think I'm going to try to make it a little thicker. I'm going to see what it looks like at 6. I may move it down, but I'm going to see what it looks like. So I want to go to the pen tool right here. And you want to make sure that you do this very carefully. So you don't want to click and drag, because if you do, it's going to make this little weird wonky line like this, and it's not going to do what you want it to do. So I'm going to hit escape and Control Z to undo that. You want to click one time on the artboard to place your anchor point, and then you want to hold the shift key to keep a straight line, and you want to drag down until you're at about 6 inches long. You could go a little longer than that. If it's 0.63, 0.65, it's still fine. So I'm going to click to place that line. I can see how thick that is. Okay. It looks like it might be a little thicker than this one over here. But I'm going to just kind of go with it. On the notes, I think I told you guys to do a 4x one. So you can, this is your choice. You can do somewhere between 4 and 6 pixels wide right here, or points, not pixels, wide. You can use to determine what you want to do there. Okay. The next thing we need to do is we need to rotate this to the left so it's leaning in the same direction as his left antenna is. So to do that, we are going to go back to our selection tool, and we're going to make sure that we have this antenna selected. And then once we have it selected, we need to go to the rotate tool, which is the letter R on the keyboard, or it's this tool right here. Okay. And then this little blue anchor point that's right here, we want to drag it down below the antenna, so it's just right below it, still centered with it. And then left click and hold the middle of this down and start to pull it down to the left. We want it to be at about 30 degrees, so somewhere around 30 degrees. It doesn't have to be exact, get it as close as you can, and then let go of the mouse. Once we let go of the mouse there, we are going to go ahead and make an exact duplicate of this by using the reflect tool, because that will reflect it as a mirror image so that it will give us this other antenna automatically without us having to redraw it. So to get to that tool, we want to click the letter O on the keyboard, which is what's hidden underneath here. So I can click and show you that. It's the reflect tool. It's the letter O. Okay. And then for this one, I'm going to hold down the Alt key, and wherever I move this blue anchor point to is where it's going to make my other antenna. So I'm going to move it over quite a bit because I want it to be pretty far apart. Okay. And then as soon as I let go of both keys, I'm going to get this pop-up window right here. Okay. I want to make sure that it's set to vertical, that the preview box is checked so I can look and see if that one looks like it's going to be where I want it to be. And then I want to click the copy. Make sure you click copy and not OK. So click copy. It's going to make an exact copy of that. If it's over here behind the Android's head right now, don't worry about it. We'll move it in a second. We're going to go back to the select tool. We are going to hold down the shift key and select the other antenna, so both of those are selected now. And then we're going to hit Control G on the keyboard to group them together so that when we move them now, they move together as one. Okay, I'll move his head down just a little bit so that now I can take the antenna and drag them up here on his head and place them about where I think they should be. Okay. Once I have placed them about where I think they should be, I want to go ahead and make sure that they are aligned properly. So I am going to keep them selected up there and then hold down the shift key and also click the head. So that way now all of the shapes are selected. I'm going to come back here to my align tool, and I'm going to tell it to align horizontally again. So that way if this was not centered, it would. So I'll show you by moving this off a little bit so that you can see what I'm talking about. That if I click this now, it's going to center those for me. Okay? All right, now that I have those done, I want to just click on just the antenna so that they're the only thing selected, and come up here to Object. And on Object, I want to choose Expand right here. And when this pop-up comes up, leave everything set just like it is and click OK. All right. Now that I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and hold Shift down and click his head again because I want to unite these together to make them into one shape. Okay. So for that, we're going to go to the Pathfinder tab right here. And under Shape Modes at the top, the very first one, if we hover over it, is Unite. So I'm going to click that. And notice how the rectangle disappeared, that this is all one shape now. So when I move it, it's all one shape in one piece. Okay. Our next step is to give him some eyes. So we want to give him his eyes. Okay. So to do that, we need to make sure that first you want to click off of this, because if you don't, when you change your color to white for your eyes, you're going to recolor his head to white. So click off of everything to deselect it. Come down here to our green color. All right. We want to change this to white. So there's an easy way to do that. You can just click the white right here. So that way you don't have to sit there and try to find that color. And it's going to change this to white over here. Okay. On your screen, that's going to be up here, the little green square, and you'll be able to click to change it to white. So then once I do that, I want to go back to the ellipse tool, the letter L on the keyboard, and I want to start to draw my eye. So I'm going to put my mouse about where I think I want his eye to start. Okay. And I'm going to hold down the Shift key to give me a perfect circle. Okay. And I'm going to make the circle about 0.25. So I want to get it close to that size as I can get it. If I can't get it that size, I mean, I could do it a little bigger. It doesn't really matter. It's just a preference. If I wanted it to be exact, I could just click once on the artboard and type in 0.25 by 0.25 and say OK. And it'll give me the exact size that I want. Okay. I'm going to go to the selection tool. I'm going to make sure I have his eye where I want it to be. Okay. And then I can make an exact duplicate of it to bring over here by holding down the Alt key on the keyboard and dragging this over with my left mouse button. And see this little line that comes up on your screen? I believe it's green, but it's pink on mine. This is a guideline that shows me that I'm staying centered with it, so it's not off-centered. And then once I have it about where I want it to be, I'm going to go ahead and let go of both buttons to place it. So now you can see I have his eyes there. It's starting to look similar to this over here. Okay. I want to group his eyes together by shift clicking to select both eyes. So shift click to select both of them. And then I'm going to hit Control G again on the keyboard for group. And then I'm going to also click shift and click his head because I want to make sure these are aligned with his head. So I'm going to go back to the Align tab. And I'm going to tell it to align that center again. So you can see it moved it, it shifted it a little bit to the right to center those eyes on up. Okay. I'm not going to go ahead and merge this with the head because later on when you guys make your own, you may decide you want to move the eyes or do something else to them. So I'm not going to have you join them to the head or unite them with the head. The next thing we need to do is make the android's body. So for that, we need the rounded rectangle tool. So we're going to come up here and left click and hold out till we get the little pop out. We're going to do this rounded rectangle tool. So I'm going to choose it. And then we're going to come back down here and change our color again back to this green. So I'm going to click this, double click it, and type in my number again. A4, what was it, A4C? Let's double check that real quick. Yep, A4C. So A4C 439 and click OK or hit enter on the keyboard. And now I can go ahead and start to draw my body. So these guidelines will help me do this correctly. So I want to make sure that I have my guidelines where it's showing me that I'm intersected with the side of his head. I'm going to hold down the left mouse button and drag over here to this side until I see my guideline pop up again. Then I'm going to pull down to drag down until I have this about 2.6 inches tall. So I'm going to come down. It's going to look a lot bigger than the one on the right, and I'll show you why here in a few minutes. So about 2.6 inches. Once I have it there, yours isn't going to be as rounded as mine is. It may be like way back like this. To get it to round off those corners more, I'm still holding down the left mouse button. I have not let go of it. I'm going to click the up arrow on the keyboard, and I can click and hold it down to make it go faster, or I can just tap it a little at a time. I'm trying to get a similar shape to the bottom of the rectangle over here on the Android on the right that we're looking at. So to me, that looks pretty similar, so I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to let go of the mouse, and it's going to draw that rectangle in. Okay. The reason that we did ours longer than his body is over here is because if we notice at the top right here that this is a straight line, it doesn't have this curved edge on it. So we needed the extra space so that when we erase this top part right here, and move this up, that we're not too short. Okay. So to do that, we are going to want to use the eraser tool. So we're going to come over and find the eraser tool. It's Shift E, or if your knife tool is still over there, just click and it'll go back to the eraser tool. Okay. So for this, we want to erase from where these blue points are right here at the bottom of our corner, the bottom of our edge, up to above the rectangle. And if we just start doing this right here, we're not going to get very straight, smooth lines. So we don't want to do that. I'm going to hit Control Z. Instead, we want to hold down the Alt key on the keyboard because that will allow us to draw a perfect rectangle over this and bring it down to those blue dots and then let go to get rid of it. I wasn't quite high enough up, so I'm going to go up a little higher. So Alt, right down on top of those, and click to delete it. Then I can go to my selection tool and go ahead and move this up until it's about in the same place as it is over here, close enough. So now we can see we start to have our shape going here. Right now he looks more like a little trash can, so we need to add his arms and legs. So to do that, and I do want to remind you guys that as you're doing these pieces, you want to save often. Okay, so I forgot to remind us at the very beginning, the first thing we always do is a file save as. So I'm going to come over here and do my file save as. Double check the file name right here because I've noticed that lately if the name's too long, it's cutting off the Android logo part, just leaving your first and last name. So make sure that it says first name dot last name dot Android logo for your file name here. Make sure you're in your Tech Vinyl Decal folder and go ahead and save that. Okay, when this pops up, just say OK, don't change anything. And now let's go ahead and make his arms and legs. So we're going to go back to the rounded rectangle tool. And then we are going to make his arms and legs, and we can do that by either clicking and dragging to make it, okay, to the size that I have listed, or we can click once and we can type in our measurements, okay. So I'm going to do 0.6 for the width and 1.8 for the height. I'm going to leave the corner radius, I think, at the same that I had it at for this right here. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK and see if that looks right. Okay, it's close enough. So I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to go to my selection tool. Okay, I'm going to move it over just a little bit. And then I want to make an exact duplicate of it to put over here. So again, remember to make an exact copy of something. I can hold down the Alt key and drag with my left mouse button to the right to go ahead and place that over there. So now I have both of his arms. Okay. Now that I have both of his arms, I need to give him some legs. So I'm going to go back to the rounded rectangle tool. I'm going to click down here. And this time I'm going to do 0.6 for the width, but for the height, I'm only going to do 1.2 inches. Okay. I'm going to click OK. And go back to the selection tool and move his leg up here. So I want his leg to actually be part of it is going to be up here in his body. That's fine. We want it to be there. Okay. So drag it over just a little bit because it looks like in the picture over here that it is actually almost underneath his eye. So I'm going to put it there. I'm going to hold Alt down. I'm going to drag a copy over. Okay. Drop it there. And now it looks very similar to this over here. They have theirs in a little closer. I mean, I can move them in a little closer if I want to. Okay, it's kind of a personal preference. So put it wherever you like it at. I'm just going to center mine up with the eyes because I think it looks better that way. That's my personal preference. Okay. So now I want to, normally I would have you guys go ahead and unite the legs with the body, like group them together and unite them just like we have with the antenna up here. But because I know that you guys are most likely going to be possibly doing something with the legs when you make your own, I don't want to do that so that you'll still be able to move them. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to have you guys click over here on the Android that we brought in. We're done using it as a reference point, so we're going to hit delete on the keyboard and get rid of it. Okay, and then we're going to draw a rectangle around our Android that we made, and we're going to make an exact copy of it to put over here. So we're going to hold down the Alt key. We're going to drag it over here to make an exact copy of it. Okay. And then we're going to click off of it. This is what you're going to use to do your summative project, so leave it over there. And then over here, we're going to go ahead and join this one together. Okay. So we're going to shift click his legs, and we're going to say Control G to group them together. And then we're going to shift click his body to put them together. We're going to come back to the Pathfinder tool, shape modes, and we're going to click that unite button to make them all one shape. Okay. And then we're going to draw a rectangle around the entire Android on the left side only. So make sure the blue bounding box is only around him and not this one. And then we're going to hit Control G again to join this together. So now if we go to move him or do anything, he's still going to be all grouped together and we're not going to move separate pieces around. Okay, now that we've done that, we are ready to add our text to this. So we're going to go to our text tool, which is called the type tool in here. It's the letter T. So we're going to click on that. We want to stay the same color green, and we're just going to click anywhere on the artboard. So I'm just going to click here. It's going to give me a place to start typing at, and I'm just going to type the word Android. Okay. Then I'm going to hit Control A on my keyboard to select that text. And then once I have that text selected, we are going to go ahead and change the font and the size. Okay. So you can see that it changed it black here. So I'm going to come back down here and double click and change that color to the A4C439, I think is what it was. Click OK. And then up at the top of your screen right here on your toolbar, you're going to see the word character. And next to it is where our font choices are and our sizes are. It looks like this over here. I'm going to click my font choices, and I'm going to choose that Android 7 font that we downloaded and installed. Okay. And then I'm going to change the size right here to about 60. So I'm going to type in 60 and say enter. Okay. And then I'm going to go to my selection tool up here, and I'm going to drag this down until it's about right here in the center of his chest. Okay. It's the same color, so it's really hard to see it right now, but you can see the blue box around it, so we know it's there. Okay. The next thing that we want to do is we want to right click on the text and choose Create Outlines. What that's going to do is it's going to make it into a vector now, so we could stretch it and make it any size that we wanted to, and it would still have the same quality. Now that I have that selected and I've done that, I want to find my Appearance tab. So for you guys, it's going to be over here towards the bottom. Mine's right here. Okay. So when you guys see the Appearance tab, it's going to look like this. You need to double click right here the word that says Contents to expand that panel, and I'm going to drag this down a little bit so you guys can see what I'm doing. And then you want to click right here next to the fill color so that you see it highlighted that that is chosen. Okay. Then we're going to go right here and choose New Fill Color. See if I have over it says Add New Fill. And on the second fill color down here, we're going to change this color to white. Okay. Because remember, white means that there's no color really there. Once we have that white one, we want to make sure that we are on that one that's white. So we want to have it selected. It's second in the list and it's the one selected. We're going to go to this FX menu. This lets us add a new effect. And we want to go to Path and Offset Path. Okay, we're going to click that. It's going to bring up this box. We want to click the preview button so we can see what it's actually doing over here. I'm going to change this to round. And you want the size right here to be somewhere between 0.3 and 0.08, or 0.03 to 0.08. So I'm going to put in 0.06 because that's what I have on here for you guys. Because the point is we want the letters to be touching, but we don't want the white part to go into the green, to be cutting into it. So you have to find just the right offset amount to do that with. Okay. So once I'm happy with that, I'm going to click OK. I'm done with this, so I'm going to click and close that. And then the next thing I want to do is I want to come up here to Object. This is a step a lot of people forget. You have to go to Object and click this Expand Appearance right here so that it adds the lines also around the white area that we just made. And then if you look real close, you can see how some of these lines are overlapping each other. So if we tried to cut this out, it would be kind of like a little puzzle to put back together because we have all these lines that would cut out there. So we want to fix that. To do that, we go back up here to our Pathfinder tool. And at the bottom where it says Pathfinder, we want to choose the third one on the list, which is Merge. I'm going to click that. See those lines disappear because it merged all of that together. And then once we've done that, we need to merge the whole entire thing together. So we are going to Shift click to choose both of those. We can see the lines of the Android running through this. So again, we want to click Merge to get rid of those lines. We can double check all of this by hitting Control Y on the keyboard. Okay, that lets us see the outline mode, which is what is going to cut out on the vinyl cutter. Okay, so we can see we have our double outline around our text like we're supposed to. We have our shape of our Android here like we're supposed to, so everything looks good. That means that we are actually done with this. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and hit Control S to save or save it again. And then you guys are you're going to turn this one in for your formative, and then you're going to fill out your EDP for your summative project, and you're going to use this one over here to do your summative. So on the summative, what I want you guys to do, here's the challenge for that, is using the copy of the Android that you made, you're going to transform it in some way to make a unique Android. It should match whatever you put on your EDP for your choice. So here's a few examples of some things that you could do. Yours doesn't have to be anything like any of these. It can be your own creation. But as you can see, the reason I left the arms and legs like that is so that if you wanted to move your arms and legs around, you have that ability to do that. Okay? So be creative. I know you're up to the challenge. Make it something unique and original, and that's what you will turn in for your actual summative for this project before we cut them out. If you have any questions, pause and rewatch the video. That's what you should always do first to see if your elbow partner can help you out. Use the help features in the software. After you've done those 3 things, if you still need help, you can ask me.